remember for many years going up and down to see our Cardinal Hume in those days, wanting a special weekend where we could have racial justice celebrated. And 30 years on, for almost 40 years on, I questioned myself, because like faith itself, it should percolate everything. And I, as much as I want this day, and as much as I want us as Christians to be celebrating something really special, I want churches to celebrate the integration of peoples within their pews every time they meet, in a real active way, in a real way, like David put earlier to us, in a genuine way. I want to see people in all spheres of life there, not just a pastor or a priest or a deacon of a particular color. I want that person to be able to engage with the others that are sitting around him, whoever he is, whether he's black, white, red, or yellow with spots. He needs to understand the folk around him. So when we speak of being in the metropolis, or whether we speak of being in the countryside, they need to know, those that are in front of them, that they're all made in the image and likeness of the same God that we're all saying we worship. So how do we treat these people? So it's about bringing about change in hearts and minds. We need to change this understanding of having a day for something, and thereafter we forget about who you are. But we'll celebrate today, you eat this kind of food and you dress in that way. But tomorrow when you're wearing a sari, it doesn't matter to me that that is your culture and that I should respect it and that I should see it as an enrichment of everything that is around me. So we have a distance to go. I don't want us to become complacent. I'm grateful, lots have changed, but for my little self, not enough.
I think Racial Justice Sunday is on, speaking as someone who for years and years and years used the Racial Justice Sunday materials when I was in West London. And I think that they've been excellent in highlighting and bringing issues to the surface. But we're absolutely right that there's a danger, and I've heard people say, "Well, we've done it. We move on to something else." And it is something that's you've got to. It's for the leadership of a local church, where it's the minister or the leaders, to actually see that, okay, we highlight on this Sunday, but actually this is like a showcasing something of what we're doing the rest of the time. So actually it needs to be something that's part of the fabric of the church all the time, because these issues are issues every single day, not just on one day of the year. It's good to bring that to focus, but it has to be, if it's going to really have any impact, it's got to be seen as something that's an ongoing thing, week after week, that is talked about, that's prayed about, where people are supported, issues are challenged. It needs to become part of the fabric of the church. And unless that happens, it doesn't make a change, in my view.
So Lindbergh, I know
I couldn't agree with that more, actually. There are lots of pluses and lots of minuses. We've done that, so we move on to something else now. And putting it in a wider context, it applies to, Pride Week, the Women's Day of Prayer, all of these days that we focus on. And certainly in my day job, for me, I try to encourage organizations to use those days, and Racial Justice Sunday is an important one of those days, as the platform from which to encourage people to engage around this work day in, day out. And as we get more and more things that might happen in our churches Monday through Saturday that might have to do with racial justice, we could be highlighting those on Racial Justice Sunday for everybody in the church to say, look, this is what's going on. This is what you're not noticing in terms of what happens on a Monday afternoon or a Wednesday afternoon or a Tuesday morning in our church when we're addressing these racial justice issues. Or this is what we should be doing on the Wednesday or the Friday in our churches around these issues. And it's not just about praying and singing these wonderful songs that have been crafted for us about racial justice. And so this notion of it being part and parcel of what is happening every day within our institutions and within our churches in particular is critical. And the downside of Racial Justice Sunday is that it can be, we've done that now, you know, that's what we do. Yeah, we did that, get back in your box. And that really needs to be guarded against.
That was the point about the whole Racial Justice Sunday, the pack and the information that had gone out with the pack. Most of the time, in my years at CTBI, my office was responsible for bringing together men and women to sit around the table and develop this information, package it really nicely. But we were always conscious that this was just one limited input into the general debate. I really honestly feel that there is now a time for us to look at what that means in terms of whether we sustain it. And I agree entirely with both yourselves and Limbert that where Racial Justice Sunday provided a mechanism for some people to engage, it was too easily bypassed. And not many people actually used it as a source of their work in an ongoing way. And then part of the change that needs to come about is that in leadership in our churches and in our society, there needs to be an about turn in terms of what is it we're seeking to do? How much money can we give to you to carry this, that, or that piece of work on without doing exactly what Richard Zipfel has said? Driving change. And it will come, but only where the hearts and minds, as Yogi has said, are willing to change. Leadership, I was in the States just recently with the Presbyterian Church USA. And their top leader is a black guy. It doesn't matter that he is a black guy. All of the structures of the Presbyterian Church are geared to that kind of change. I am not saying that they have the answer to the question, but what I saw enormously impressed me because he is placing at the heart of the community what fighting against racism and for racial justice means in my view. And it will probably take a long time, but where hearts and minds within the pews, within the society, within our neighbors, our children, are able to imbibe those goals and those opportunities for learning that I am black, but I am beautiful, and I am worthy. Where white people are able and enabled to do that, then I think we have a very good chance of seeing those incremental changes moving in an upward direction. And I think beyond the resources that churches are now seeking to put aside, that is not necessarily the answer either. Because we can give money, but do we give ourselves to the story?
One of the things that theologically that we as Christians believe in and are taught is we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. And the idea of a Racial Justice Sunday most definitely has and had its time. And the idea then that we needed almost to remind ourselves that we are all brothers and sisters in Christ, and that Racial Justice Sunday somehow encompassed that and gave and served as that reminder of that. One of the things I hear a lot in the church, and I've heard from my childhood and on, is we are all welcome. You're all welcome. We're all welcome. You know, everybody's welcome. You know, just don't sit on that pew because, you know, so and so sits there. Or, well, no, you're not ready to be a pastoral assistant yet. You're not ready to do that sort of work. Mm-hmm. What I believe in relation to Racial Justice Sunday, and therefore racism, because at the end of the day, Racial Justice Sunday is marking the fact that racism is a thing, it does exist, and that we need to do something about it. And one of the questions that goes begging for me around racial justice is how we live our lives outside of the church, not how we live our lives in the church. You know, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ today. What are you doing tomorrow and the day after and the day after, and how are you living that life? That goes begging. So in the church, so we talk a lot about welcome, and it's something that, you know, we hear all the time, and we all use it. Everybody's welcome, everybody, you know, and we encourage people and we encourage everybody to be welcome. What we don't talk about, though, is belonging. And actually the theological concept of belonging, of who belongs. And there are many in the church that are told in varying ways that you don't belong here. And that's the thing that, to me, in terms of Racial Justice Sunday, when you have this one day, it is, on the one hand, a celebration and a marking, but on the other hand, it actually magnifies just how big the issue is that we of racism, the fact that we need a Racial Justice Sunday, so we don't all belong, actually.
Yeah, and you know what? I just wonder whether a refocusing of Racial Justice Sunday could be much more about encouraging, enabling, and resourcing the local church to work for racial justice in its community, rather than a kind of positioning of it in terms of having the local church celebrating ethnic diversity, but actually saying, yeah, we're all brothers and sisters and there is injustice out there. How are you guys going to get your act together to do something about it? And maybe that's where we could be going.